let's have a look now at the strategical process for this speaking task. We have broken down this task into 3 strategies today. Let's have a look at what those 3 strategies are. Strategy 1. Write your notes in a methodical and efficient approach. Listen for topical and keywords which transfer the most important information. Don't concern yourself overly with the spelling of words, but make sure you know their meaning. So this task today, strategy 1, we're going to look at first, is referring to your own note-taking approach. How do you take down your lecture notes so that you are using your time in a methodical and efficient approach? Well, we'll go into more detail about that very soon, but basically what you should be doing is you should be taking down things in the rawest note form. You should be taking down your notes in a way that they make sense to you, but you're not overly consumed with spelling, grammar, or even logical sentence flow. After all, you're not going to be reading this as you're going along. You'll be using those keynotes to recount the information as if you were speaking very, very naturally. So note form is the best. Don't concern yourself overly with spelling of words, but make sure that you do know their meaning and you're not confused that way. So strategy 1 today. Remember, you will only hear the lecture once, necessitating effective note-taking in order to get the highest score possible. So unlike other academics exams, such as the Cambridge series, you will only hear the lecture once. There will be no repeating of it, so you have to ensure that the first time you listen, you have taken down all the essential information in total, which means that you do need to take down your notes incredibly effectively in order to get the highest score possible, because you won't hear it again and you won't have time to write down more notes. The time within the listening is effectively the time that you have in order to note take overall. Try not to think too much about the speaker's accent or delivery method. Now, some people can get very distracted by what they might think is a funny accent or a strange accent to them. Once when I was teaching an IELTS class, for example, I had an American professor with a very strong Delhi accent from India giving a lecture on American history, and given that the subject matter that the person was talking about and some of the phrases and words in it with an Indian Delhi accent, some of my students were quite thrown by this accent because they were not really sure how to interpret a Delhi Indian accent to the people. But so they might have gotten a bit distracted with the delivery, rather than actually focusing on the key words. So it's important that you don't think too much about the accent. Listen to it as best as you can and pick up the information as accurately as possible. But don't concern yourself overly with the speaker and the accent that's being used. You should not aim to take down every word and instead focus on the following points when you are listening. So here are some things that you should be thinking about as you take down, because after all, you're not going to be writing out the entire transcript as you listen to it. You need to listen out for what are the most important details. These are the following. The main points and principles. So you might have gotten an idea for what the main points and the main principles are from looking at your chart, your graph, or your image. See if you hear these after reading them from the chart or graph during the lecture, and write them down. What are the ideas that are being conveyed? What are the main principles that are being conveyed? See if they repeat in terms of a theme, or maybe you might hear an overall theme from your own studies, and write them down. Supporting details and examples. So any main point you might hear, for example, the consumption of fish, which was our chart topic we're going to look at very, very soon. What supporting details did you hear? They might be supported by the data in the chart and the graph, so listen out for them as you go along. Important dates and numbers. Now, dates and numbers will be highly essential in the recount of accurate factual information in your retell of the lecture. So you might hear a date like 1910, or you might hear a number like a 90%, for example. Make sure you write them down, because these key points are essential to conveying the overall message of the lecture. So in addition to that, you should also think about ways in which the main ideas and points connect together, such as if they support or contradict each other, as well as any other relationships they might have. So you might hear more than one viewpoint that's being used in this lecture. You might even hear the opinions of more than one speaker. Do these views, do they connect with each other? Do they support each other, or do they contradict each other? Think about then how we can actually link those ideas together and how we can discuss them using various transition and connective words. But we'll go into a bit more detail about that very, very soon in our lecture. Think about your note layout and make sure it's easy to follow when reciting your lecture. So everyone will probably have their own note-taking style, but the thing to actually accentuate here is that you should be taking down your notes in a note-based form. You should contract them, you should shrink them, you should make them as concise as possible when you're taking down your notes. So often skills that many people have is designing like a little flow chart with arrows and symbols to show the relationship that each of the points have with each other, as well as taking down words in note form as well. After all, spelling is not important. You will not be using these notes in terms of the submission, but basically you want to be taking down notes as quickly, as effectively as possible, and then be able to recite them at the very, very end. So think about your own style. Finally, pay attention to any graphs or maps you may see as part of your question, as any associated headings may contain some essential information that should be included in the retelling. As I said previously, we're going to look at a pie chart today on the consumption of fish. You should be, if you get that style of prompt in your PTE examination, you should be taking down a note of the overall pie chart heading, as well as some of the factual information and what the chart tells us as well, because you will probably need to recount them. You may actually miss out on these details as you listen to it, but at least if you see the graph itself in terms of the image, you will then have a written representation that you can take forward into your note taking, so you can combine the ideas that you've heard in the listening with some of this essential information.
Once again, thanks so much for coming today and viewing this video as part of our PTE academic series. We really hope that you got lots of useful information from this video and you'll use it going forward for your own PTE studies. There are many things that you can do in the meantime with Swoosh English in preparation for your PTE examination. The first thing you can do is you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have lots of extra content on there, other videos from other teachers, lots of information you guys can find. Hopefully you'll find it very useful. If you're on social media, you can like our Facebook page to get more news about upcoming PTE lessons and content, as well as find out a bit more information about Swoosh English, what we do and what we offer. Once you've used these two things, you can check us out on our website, which is www.swooshenglish.com. While you're on the website, we would really appreciate if you left us a message, as you can see indicated here by the red arrow. It could be a query, it could be a question, it could be a request, it could even be a friendly hello. That's all we want. We want to hear from you, our valuable students. So once again, thanks a lot for coming today. Have a great day and see you again as part of our PTE academic series. Take care. Bye.